clearly something that I like to do is try to connect the dots across sports, media, and entertainment. And talking to Ethan Rosenbaum today, who is at the helm at Source Golf, is a pretty perfect person, individual, and company here that sits right at the center of those things. I'm pretty fired up to talk to Ethan. I'm glad we can give it a little breakdown on the front end, but let's kick it over to you first. What are you so excited with when it comes to Source Golf?
Well, Brent, you're exactly right. We like to connect the dots across sports, media, and entertainment. And Ethan likes to sit at the center of sports, media, and entertainment. He is on the forefront of the sports creator economy, as it were, and the rise of so many trends across sports, media, and entertainment, right? And so it's going to be a great conversation with Ethan, but I'm excited to dive into what even is Source Golf. What are the trends that it's taking advantage of? How is Ethan positioned within this broader and rebundling of media trend that we see over and over and over again? And why do we think that Ethan's even going to be successful in the first place? It's an ambitious task, but man, is he well positioned and well equipped.
Yeah, I mean, I've dug into this future, past, present, and future of the media landscape. And one thing that I've constantly come back to across a lot of under the number pieces and even stuff that I used to write when I was still at GSV is this concept of unbundling and rebundling, and how it's so funny that there's really not ever that much divergence from traditional TV.
Right.
Now you see basically Letterman style talk shows taking place on X and YouTube and people going live, and it's creative, it's innovative, but no one's reinventing the wheel. So it's very funny to see the cycle play out. And in the case of Source Golf, it takes advantage of the unbundling or the kind of fragmented landscape that is YouTube golf. And we can dive into who some of the big players are there. But this is like the kind of cable 2.0 moment. And I know that Source wants to operate really more so in the background, but wants to be this gateway into the universe that is YouTube golf that has some unbelievable statistics around it. But yeah, it's kind of amazing how squarely it fits into that cycle that we've looked at before. And we can double tap as well into some of the business models and why the best YouTube golfers have amazing businesses on their hands. But maybe you can give us a little bit of a flyover of some of those players and just kind of level set.
Yeah, well, let's back up a second. As in everything else I do, I like to provide some historical context, let's say,
right,
or some parallels, we might say. And if we just start from first principles and look at what's happened over the last 20 plus years since the institution of the internet came to be, what has happened? Well, the cost of creating content has gone to zero. All you need is an iPhone, which you're already going to have anyways, because you need to call your mom and wife, right? And then you can just prop that phone up and start recording and then put it out on the internet. The cost has gone to zero. But what else has gone to zero is the cost of distributing that content. YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, they're all free. Everything's free now. And so the differentiator is, are you putting out good quality content? And can you do that over time in a sustainable way in order to build an audience? And what we're seeing now with the rise of platforms like Beehive, which we both use on our newsletters, or Substack, some of these other platforms, is the rise of really niche content creators that own their audience. And I've said this before, but if you could just build a following of 10,000 hardcore loyal fans in whatever your niche third level niche is, right? Like that's what we're doing here, Brent. We're case in point to this exactly. We have our cameras propped up. We have our microphones. We're going to distribute this over YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and we're in a sports business niche, right? But that same concept applies to what Ethan Rosenbaum is doing at Source Golf and what the creators that he's utilizing are doing. Bryson DeChambeau as an anchor asset, obviously a renowned golfer, but more than that, a heck of a content creator doing millions of views on his videos. Grant Horvat, same thing. Bryan Bros, personality-driven media creators that found their niche and are just dominating it.
Personality-driven is right. I think you cannot overstate how much I don't want to say image rehabilitation, but how much of a successful rebrand someone like Bryson achieved via becoming a creator and having this channel where he was able to show his personality and develop that parasocial relationship with the audience, where people know him as more than maybe, 8 years ago. He was kind of a frustrated, known as kind of a hard-out golfer, and he had some haters.
Dropping bombs on the drives, by the way.
Yeah, he also got jacked during that process. He really had a rebrand. But, I'm not the first person to say this. The concept of audiences being unbelievably undervalued, and in a lot of cases under-monetized, which has to do with business structure. Who are you building the content for? And I know that you've kind of thought through this as a framework of like, there's content to commerce as this big universe where you can look at Dude Perfect, Mr. Beast, Meat Eater, it goes on and on and on. And then you can get more and more niche within that. Or you can build your content for what you have coined as this content to access play. There's a whole universe that exists in this world. In the case of YouTube Golf, it's kind of that middle ground where no, the content is not for everybody, but it's also not so niche that there isn't a gigantic TAM basically associated with a global audience of people who like golf, particularly at a time when golf has more growth and tailwinds than it has ever had.
Yeah, well, think about it, Brent. These YouTube channels in cash flow. Mr. Beast makes a lot of money off of his YouTube channel itself, but what that channel serves as is the tentpole around which he builds a 360 ecosystem and monetizes his following through a number of nodes, different touch points. And so, yeah, he has his channel that's doing, 400 million subscribers or whatnot, but he's really making his money off of Feastables. And so he's pushing CPG, or he partners with Amazon to do the Beast games, right? This is more than just content. And then we see the same thing with Good Golf or Dude Perfect. It started off as content plays. Dude Perfect was doing trick shots coming out of Texas A&M in 2011. And then 2 years ago, raised $100 million by our friend Jason Ilian at High Mount Capital. Or same with Good Golf, Creator Sports Capital, Brian and Ben Grubbs over there gave them $45 million to what? To go and build out a flywheel ecosystem around that content. And so now Good Golf, for example, has apparel. They're expanding internationally. They buy into the Grass League, and they have a team, and they have these invitationals, live events, right? This is much more than just a content business. And so they're able to translate their content and the audience and the following that they have into these multi-revenue stream businesses that are now commanding institutional capital.
It's the beauty of the CAC hack, which is an essay that I wrote along with my old boss about 2 years ago. But I think it was Craig Fuller who ran a company called Freight Waves, and I won't go fully down the rabbit hole, but he has spoken a lot about the concept of how when you own an audience, particularly a concentrated audience or a defined audience, you can achieve negative CAC, negative customer acquisition cost. And to your exact point, the thing that is your opportunity or your customer acquisition engine is a monetizable media property. And then once those people are in and they've come inside the tent, you can sell them a number of things. And he's building an insane, amazing company around that called Firecrown, that for the media and the nerds out there who really want to dive deep, go check out that business. But no, it's very much on trend. And back to the unbundling and rebundling, it's like Barstool is a great example. Think of how much talent they have basically found, provided a launch pad to, made these people famous, only to have them leave and then say, I'm going independent. I don't need your infrastructure anymore. And then maybe to the point that they're so successful individually that they're then now building the next platform or the next network, bringing in their own talent, and on and on and on it goes. In the case of Source, they're not trying to, of course, they've done the partnerships with the talent, but they're kind of trying to be, to my understanding, this single gateway for the commercialization of a daily golf network where you have this round the calendar coverage and content that has unbelievable amounts of available ad inventory. And they want to help the creators themselves maximize that inventory maximize their revenue in turn, and make it, simplify the process for these companies to advertise with these groups that have absolutely voracious audiences.
Yeah, well, you got to think about the comp of it's cable 2.0. And the reason you can make that comp and it makes sense is because these creators, as it stands, are incredibly fragmented and their channels are very disparate. And so when a brand goes to engage with a creator, you have to negotiate these one-off deals in order to place your sponsorship at the beginning, the middle, or the end of their inventory. But then from the creator's perspective, also, these creators are only ever getting better and their content's only ever getting better. But at the same time, they build up this back catalog of incredible remnant inventory that still has value because the content's evergreen. So when I go home and I'm cooking dinner and I throw on a DeChambeau, YouTube episode, it might be from last week. It might be his newest drop. It might be from a year and a half ago. Right. And so DeChambeau is definitely in a place where he needs to maximize the value of both his existing catalog and his back catalog and his new catalog that drops each week. And so that's sort of where Ethan steps in and says, okay, what we can do is we can treat the creators as if they're their own television shows. And we can come in and be the cable network that serves as a single point of aggregation for the brands to come in and deliver their sponsorships through one unified ad network. And so that's why he's able to go out and get Bryson DeChambeau and Grant Horvat and the Bryan Bros to agree to something like this. Because now what he's done is he's simplified the ability to monetize their content, especially their remnant inventory, because it makes it easy for these brands to come in and just fund those channels. But now, more than that, to go back to our content to commerce flywheel business discussion, what Ethan's done essentially is he's gone out and gotten some of the biggest golf creators there are and aggregated eyeballs into virtually one singular point, one singular platform. What can he do with that? Well, when you grow your following and you grow your audience, like we just said, you can start pushing product. You can start monetizing in all these different ways. So he's now equipping these creators to build out their own content to commerce businesses in ways that they weren't equipped to before. And this is why he was able to raise money from Blitzer and Bolt Ventures. It's this thesis. It's this combination of solving for fragmentation, monetizing your remnant inventory, making it easy for brands to interact with content creators, bundling all of this, and then enabling these creators to launch their content to commerce businesses.
And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong here, this is meant to augment the robust partnership teams and sales that exist in-house with these creators. Like the groups
Correct.
at Dude Perfect who are going out doing corporate partnerships and making sure that there's product placements of body armor in these episodes, they're not going anywhere. This is a complementary vehicle to further extend and maximize the revenue on top of what is already being done by these really creative and very commercially minded groups. Because as you said at the beginning with all those examples, Dude Perfect being one of them, I mean, I've been to that, actually the old HQ2 and the new HQ3. These are big businesses. This is no joke.
No joke. No joke. And golf is as good a place as ever to start. I mean, one of the things that we haven't hit on is that golf as a category is downstream of so many participatory and demographic trends that were starting as early as 2017. The population playing golf started to skew younger, and the 18 to 34 category began to explode. And what was the PGA Tour and the Live Golf Tour doing? Well, they weren't really meeting the fans where they were at. They were continuing to sign these broadcast and legacy media deals. But the fans that were starting to actually play the sport and want to engage with the sport had nowhere. They were being underserved. And so the golf creators are the ones that met them where they were on their phone, on YouTube. And now here we are a couple years later, and Ethan Rosenbaum has seen so many trends that he sits at the center of and has been able to structure something to capitalize on it.
Yeah. And not to mention COVID, of course, is the accelerant of them all.
Social distancing, the whole thing, man.
It all worked together. Yeah, literally. You're stuck at home. If you're going to go out, what are you going to do? Well, golf's a great social distancing sport. And you're
Golf and
stuck at home with
pickleball.
no live sports on a traditional broadcast. How are you going to be entertained? Well, go watch Grant Horvat hit some balls, go watch
That's
some of these
exactly
guys
right.
who, to your same point, have basically no friction to create professional grade, broadcast grade content in 4K, throw it up on YouTube for free. And they've obviously reaped the rewards of that timing. But I think it's time to bring in Ethan, and I'm fired up to hear this straight from the horse's mouth.
Fired up. Let's do it, baby.
All right, we got Ethan Rosenbaum in the house, leader of Source Golf. Thanks for joining us. And we just teed you up, pun very much intended, talking all things Source Golf, Jester and I, looking at the themes and trends and reasons why we think this is such an interesting opportunity. But why don't you tell us, what are a few of the big picture things in the market, in the world of media, that have you so excited to be working on a problem like this?
Well, first of all, thanks for having me. I think just taking a step back and looking at golf as a category, right? Like you guys know, like golf is huge, growing like massively, right? You have 50 million kind of US participants, right? Like growing double digits. And at the same time, you have, if you look at the broadcast, like linear tournament majors, you have double digit declines in viewership. And then the average broadcast age is in the mid 60s. And so I think the question really becomes like, where's the audience going? And for us, it became very clear that golf doesn't have a viewership problem. It has a distribution revolution almost. And you have an extremely vibrant community of people, millions of people tuning in every day to the top YouTube golf channels. And these aren't just like kids. This is 18 to 49. And these are people watching on their television screens, and in some cases watching for like 2 hours at a time. Right. So this is where golf viewership is going. This is where the sport culturally, you have athletes going out and making their personalities known. You have big announcements. You have top content creators getting signed by Titleist. You have the PGA Tour going and doing creator classics. So for all those reasons, I got increasingly excited about the space, and we built a platform to solve some of the unique problems that exist around YouTube golf and what doesn't exist for brands. We put together a bundle and a package to solve for that.
So Ethan, when I examine the landscape of golf and golf media, or the creator economy generally, or even the sports creator economy, when you chose to play in golf, why was it that you decided to build this platform first? Within the creator economy, you could have built 1,000 different things. Why was it that you decided to build this sort of infrastructure platform to smooth the rails of monetization?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, there are a bunch of bundles that we're starting with golf, and we're going to go out and do a bunch of others. We're looking at motorsports. We're looking at soccer. We're looking at cricket. There are incredible opportunities across a lot of them, and some others have larger TAM than golf. And I think that what really made golf the right place to really start and build the infrastructure on was there's an incredible consumer. I mean, golf has a very wealthy consumer, which in turn leads to very high CPMs. And really, our customers are brands. They're brands who want to buy television-like packages. And the simple unit economics are that, they command pricing power, that bundle. And so, and on the flip side, there is basically zero television ad spend going into those channels today, into those creator, they're monetizing through sponsorships. They have great teams. They have great, YouTube has AdSense. It was really an arbitrage between what they were getting in television today and what brands were willing to pay for that category. So it felt like the right way to get things going, and then we could expand into larger markets and other sports from there.
Do you think you can kind of set the table a little more specifically on where things stand right now? Like you mentioned, you can monetize via YouTube AdSense. Yeah. I talked about in this setup here that a lot of these big creator groups, they're real businesses and companies. they have in-house partnership teams trying to get the body armor to come in to be the product placement, for example. How
Yeah.
does that currently work? And again, to double down, like, what is it? Where was there meat left on the bone that made you want to get involved?
It's a great question. I mean, if you think about sports and the creator economy, I mean, the teams that are around Bryson DeChambeau, Grant Horvat, the Bryan Bros, right? Like, these are world-class agents and managers who are selling, sponsorships that are innovative, and they're managing talent, a lot of them on the creator side. And I think, like, we built a product that really can empower them and work alongside them, right? Because if you think about what sponsorships are today, which is like what the lifeblood of sports and the creator economy in a lot of ways, it's like, hey, I'm going to drink this Coca-Cola and hit this putt, right? Those are integrations into the show, if you will, right? But 90% of marketing budgets for the Fortune 500 are media. They're pre-rolls, they're mid-rolls, they're spots and dots. And today on YouTube, right, like, that happens across a broad-based algorithm. It happens in AdSense. And it's designed for the masses. And if you want to go and create like a thematic curated bundle, you can go tap into direct sales for television ad budgets. But if you're a one-off creator, a standalone creator, you can't access it. You don't have the scale to go out and say, hey, like, the team that's putting money into CBS, or the brand that's putting money into CBS, or some Viacom CBS, or some other, right, like, network. You don't have that today. You don't have the scale or the tonnage to do that in the creator economy. So if I'm a creator, even if I'm the largest creator, it maybe Beast is an exception. So second down to everyone else, I don't have the tonnage, right, or the inventory that can say, hey, if I'm a brand, I could say, like, I'm gonna, like, if you're a brand, you want to go to a network, because if one creator declines, you can get inventory from elsewhere. You could do media buys. You can buy across, pre-rolls and mid-rolls that are in the hundreds of millions or billions, right? And then have select integration opportunities. So long story short, there's a long-winded way of saying this is a net new revenue stream,
right,
for the creator economy, because it didn't exist until you can package a thematic bundle in a brand safe way that was premium. So, I mean, the agents and managers love working with us because, like, we're not taking anything from what they're doing. They're providing an incredible service, and we're just bringing net new revenue to them. And, hopefully that brings other integration opportunities that we can toss along to them, and everyone could win. Does that make sense?
Sounds like you're growing the size of the pie. I don't see why they would be upset with that.
That's the pitch. Yeah. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're not taking anything that they're doing today.
Ethan, how do you identify which golf creators to go after? Why did you start with DeChambeau, Horvat, and the Bryan Bros? And where do you go from there? There's no shortage of golf creators out there. It's a very hot and congested, you might say, niche of YouTube. So what's your criterion upon which you you say, come join our Source Golf Network?
Those channels, Grant, Bryson, the Bryan Bros, we wanted to get to scale, right? When we announced, we wanted to have enough inventory to scale. You could look there, if you just look at any of their videos, they have such incredible volume that, it was a great combination of having the scale and having the cultural appeal in the space. And like, we felt that being partners with them, and they were really going to be like, they would add a lot of value. I mean, they're such incredible, like, stewards of YouTube golf, both from a volume and cultural standpoint, that it made sense. And there are other, like, amazing creators that we're going to make an announcement pretty soon in terms of, like, the next class, and like, who's joining them, and they'll be the founding creators for the network, of course. But we have, like, there's honestly, Matt, there are really, like, dozens of YouTube golf channels that are vibrant and growing and have innovative formats. So, these guys are at the top in a lot of ways in terms of, like, what they're doing for the space. But, Like there's so much out there. And there are new ones coming every day.
Being a network and yet, or, referring to yourself as a network, but also wanting to operate more or less in the background, right? Like, how do you communicate that when you're first having these conversations saying, hey, we're not Barstool Sports asking you to come aboard and then be a Barstool branded golfer, a Source branded golfer. We're here to be the quiet but effective, crew behind the curtain here. How do those first conversations get going? And because as far as I know, there isn't a lot like what you guys have to offer out there. So is there some level of like education before you're even able to get to the selling portion of the convo?
Definitely. I mean, I think let's just start with the basics. Like if you've gone out, I mean, Brent, you have a podcast, right? Like you have like put your like blood, sweat, and tears into like a brand and a direct audience, right? And so like when you have done that and you're a professional athlete or a top content creator, like there you have to give you have to give credit where it's due. Like it's not easy. That's an incredibly hard and impressive thing. I think like to think that like you see companies or try to come over the top and say, well, you're going to be part of us now in our network. It's not an effective strategy, and it's really a traditional entertainment way of thinking of like, we could come in and we have so much, like we're the studio, we're the network, we have, traditionally we have the distribution, and so we're going to absorb you talent, but this is the talent and this is the distributor. So I think when we're trying to create a product or an offering or a network that works for them, it's about, they need to be B2C, right? They are the ones engaging with their audience. They're the ones engaging with all the first party data, the products, everything, right? And for us, we're B2B. We're just saying, if you allow us to centralize some of the sales capacity for media, direct media sales, there's a huge opportunity and we could only be additive. So I think it's like, just to answer your question, like a little bit about recognizing who they are in the market of new media as the talent and the distributors.
Yep.
But really understanding that the B2B relationship of that network is our business model, right? It's approaching the agencies, the Publicis, the Omnicoms, the WPPs of the world as a centralized network package, right? That's for us, that's where we play, is a little bit behind the scenes. That makes sense?
Absolutely.
So when you talk to these brands, Ethan, what's their appetite for engaging with digital media in this way as compared to the traditional broadcast? And when you actually talk with these folk, what's their rationale behind going this direction? Because obviously you can say things like younger demographic, meeting the fan where they're at, et cetera. But what are these people actually telling you?
We've seen we announced a month or two ago in terms of like our bundle and going out to market, and we've had like incredible reception from the brands. And I think one of the sticking points is, I think like you see like a lot of buzzwords in terms of like younger demographic or this, like for any digital thing that's zeitgeisty. I think like what has been the differentiator for us is just having the volume and the network scale to be able to say, look, like, we have inventory, right, that we really can sell and place and productize appropriately, and that you could fall back on. And right, so there's the inventory, which is rare. Is the first thing. And the second is that like this content is being distributed on television and connected TV, which is a huge selling point. And it's really important for like, if you're a brand and you want to spend your money to go advertise, there is a premium to being on a format or a television show or on TV, right? It's a different price point, and that's what we're offering. It's most of this content is being distributed on television and being watched for long periods of times in elevated formats.
Right. And so the point of this, Ethan, is that it's a unified platform, starting off in golf, but eventually expanding into other categories. I imagine that brands then are going to be cross-sellable, I guess is the way to put that, across, if you launch in motorsport and cricket and the other categories that you mentioned down the road, and you have this existing relationship with the brands and that through the ad network, then you just now have double, triple, quadruple the inventory to bring to them next year and the year after and the year after. And you can see pretty quickly how this scales. Is that correct?
That's right. That's absolutely right. And I think it's really it's demand driven, right? Because I think brands are not shy about what they want. And so, we have our ideas and we look at the data and, we're building products and bundles and all the time. We're considering, the next ways to grow and scale. But the brands will tell you. I mean, we have an incredible seller that will be announced today, actually. Who's joining the team, who's our head of sales, has been working at kind of decades at Paramount, Viacom, CBS prior, selling the Masters. Right? Like that's, he's got incredible relationships. It's not just golf, it spans all across like what he touches and like how they engage. So absolutely. I mean, that's the whole beauty of having a sales force in the space.
You heard it here first, Brent. Breaking news on Under the Number. I think that's a first of its kind.
You know what? It's going to be public when this comes out. So his name's Terry Dollard, and he's the best.
His last name is Dollar?
Dollard.
Okay. Okay. I was going to say, that is nominative determinism, I think they call that, when your name. If Mr. Dollar is your sales guy, you are going to absolutely rake it in.
His name's Terry Moneybags.
That's right.
Sales guy, natural born sales guy. Love that for you guys. I was going to, before we talked about Mr. Moneybags there, I was going to ask, did these traditional media buyers, and I know that you've had a media career and you've had an amazing education to get to where you are today. When this creator economy started, the snowball started to roll downhill, which I'll leave it to you to maybe pinpoint when when momentum really picked up. But was there initially a thought of, I'm a traditional media buyer. Sure, here's this guy, take a Grant Horvat in this example, but it could have been somebody years ago. This guy makes great content and his numbers are very interesting. All of those numbers of the leaders have now just ballooned to a whole nother stratosphere. But would they say there's too much key man risk for me to put dollars behind one person? Or is it the same as like, well, why would you put money behind, David Letterman? He's one guy. He could, God forbid, gets hit by a bus. You're going to have the same problem. Was that something that those companies had to kind of navigate, where it's these small creators had so much impact?
Key man risk is one part of it. But David Letterman's show is part of a broader network, right? So it's not, so that was mitigated, right? In the form of traditional. I think that there's just an element of scale, right? Like David Letterman is like the cable network sells the media on formerly Letterman's show, and they sell it across a bundle of a bunch of other shows.
So that is what de-risks it. That is what inherently de-risks it, is what you guys are doing.
If you're a media buyer, like you want to deal with one point of sale, you want to have, there's a key man risk element, which is, if this show goes down, this show goes up, then you can't default, right? I mean, because, if for whatever reason, the channel gets deleted for 5 minutes, right? Like not Grant, I'm saying any channel, there's like other channels or IPs that you can go layer into. So, I mean, brands are just accustomed to like buying in that way, right? Of like, you could fall back on it. That next year there will be more inventory. It's a diversified slate. And that's kind of what's required to go get a media buy.
Got it.
In addition to like the licenses and the YouTube space, like all the licenses and really like the sign off and partnership with YouTube directly, and like really like a track record of showing that you can traffic the media and deliver for a variety of brands, right? So it's a combination of those two things.
Ethan, I have a question about audience size. I mean, one of the things that Brent and I chatted about before you came on was this differentiation between content to audience platforms like your Dude Perfect's, Good Golf's, Meat Eaters that grow to have these big followings. A lot of the channels that you currently have fit in that category. But then you have this whole other side of the barbell where you have these incredibly niche content creators, the TVPNs of the world, Acquired, Invest Like the Best. A lot of them are often in these B2B type categories that have high intent, high engaged audiences, but they're very niche. And typically the end audience there are sort of these B2B professionals that have higher dollar spend and that sort of thing. And so does this platform model apply to that hyper niche creator in a way that maybe it doesn't to the broad-based audience, like with the DeChambeaus of the world?
Yeah, I think when you describe hyper niche, really in two buckets, right? There's like, is the category hyper niche or is the creator hyper niche? And I think like I would say like, look at it TBPN, right? Like hyper niche in that it's in financial news. But like I kind of almost view that as like a CNBC. And I think there is something there in like a CNBC bundle. Like that's like, who's the next Jim Cramer? The next Jim Cramer is going to come off YouTube. I think like the more, like, I think that I would, it may feel niche compared to the moment that golf is having on YouTube. But when you really think about the products, it's like any channel on cable, right? Like Home and Garden, HGTV, that's a huge category, right? So, I mean, it's niche for YouTube, but I mean, I view that as a massive category and a massive opportunity. And I think, then there's a question in there, embedded in there, about size of the channel. And I think that like this opportunity certainly exists. I mean, a smaller channel will definitely have less inventory, right? I mean, you have less impressions to sell. But if you have a hyper engaged audience, you could sell them for more, and it could be a premium CPM. And you can layer other types of products like first party data around there to make it really compelling. So the answer in short is yes. I mean, like a niche engaged creator, a niche engaged category definitely has legs when you wrap different types of innovative media products around it.
So you're saying Brent and I should be waiting for your call when you launch the Sports Business Network.
I think after this, we're going to get if you guys give me good coverage, we're going to get a deal over to you guys right after this.
Perfect.
Podcast network. Brent and Matthew, you'll be on the face of it. We'll get it going.
Perfect. So another question on growing your audience, and if you're an individual creator, again, coming back to Grant and Bryan Bros and Bryson, the guys you have, how much do they think about just grow? I need follower number, subscriber number to go up, which I know people have many opinions on whether or not that's as relevant as it once was, or views to go up. I'm sure they go hand in hand, but another creator that I think Matthew mentioned at the top is Steve Rinella from Meat Eater. And I think of course, another category could be this like hunting outdoor lifestyle. That seems like another great category with some people who spend quite a lot of money, and it's very much a serious affinity group, identity-driven affinity group. But Steve Rinella has diversified his offerings and revenue streams in an amazing way, where one, he's made a bunch of acquisitions where like he bought an apparel company, he bought a duck decoy company. He makes cookbooks that tell you how to prepare the meat that he teaches you how to capture when you go out hunting. Like it's this kind of amazing universe. So it's a long way of asking, how have you perceived it within the golf world of diversification? Obviously, I think of another good or another golfer being good, and they've got a big apparel situation, and apparel is an easy one or a direct one. But how much are they looking at diversifying revenue streams versus let's stay focused and stick with the bread and butter and make the best content possible so that the views and the audience itself grows to be a lot bigger than it is today?
I think I'm speculating, right? Because like I think that like I don't know 100%, but I think that like the aspirations in the space are like the YouTube golf is this category in itself, which is like so unique and it's so like culturally relevant right now. You have LeBron James going into it, so I think you do have a lot of creators at the top who are saying like, I really want to be engaged in like the content, and that's 100% of my focus, and like creating interesting formats and ideas from there, right? Like I think that's like they're probably relative to other categories. It's also a very healthy media market, right? So like having a big channel lends itself to a lot of good opportunities, right? Where you could monetize your impressions. Compare that to like hunting and fishing. Anytime you have, animals and guns, brands tend to pay less. So, in certain categories, you might see more consumer products. But so anyway, going back to golf, I mean, you see a bunch of these guys, a bunch of our creators they sell merchandise. They have great partnerships with different golf companies. I mean, Bryson obviously has so many things going on that, he's like really so innovative in how he's putting together different types of deals and acquisitions in the space. So I think 100%, I think that a lot of, YouTubers in general view their kind of individual brands to always like the content is first and foremost, because it allows them to have the direct touch point, direct distribution, but the different things that you can layer into that in the form of products or messaging or whoever is endless. So I would say it fits that for sure.
So Ethan, as you know, when we first met, one of the reasons we bonded is because we both have a shared love of my partner, Rick Hess. And so we actually have a special guest appearance here right now who wants to come and say a word about Source Golf. Hurrah for the red and the blue. Hurrah.
What's up? Why aren't you on a golf course, man?
Dude, I'm wearing my golf shirt. Are you going to be at Shinnecock this week?
I will be running around chasing too many children.
For the benefit of the podcast, Rick's son-in-law and his daughter are two of my best friends in the world. So also worked next to Rick for a couple of years and learned a lot from him. So, well, we got to have a catch up in a non-recorded. We'll do beers after this or next time I'm in LA at some point.
Done. Awesome. Good seeing you.
Amazing. Great seeing you.
Boys.
That's a great surprise.
Yes, we obviously owe a lot to that man right there.
Love it.
There's always a thread, these things don't happen out of nowhere. There's always a glue guy somewhere behind the scenes.
That's right. Definitely a glue guy.
So just for the sake of connecting the dot there, what were you doing can you give us like a quick recap of the few stops you've had that have prepared you so well and uniquely positioned you so well to be taking this on?
Yeah, definitely. So I worked as an investor at Forest Road. So Forest Road is an asset manager, and I was actually the first investment hire at the firm. And over time, over a couple of years, grew to manage the media and entertainment investments. And so that was, there was into feature films and television shows on the credit side. And then on the equity side, it would be acquiring businesses, mostly in like the lower middle market was where I focused, for entertainment companies. So film and television distributors, production companies, financiers, and IP investment banks, and really putting together like this portfolio of things next to LendCo where we'd finance the content, and we're uniquely positioned to buy the service providers next to the content. Rick kind of came in an advisor role, helped to close a bunch of big deals, which was a lot of fun working with him. Obviously, just like, just a leader in the entertainment world and entertainment investing. So I have learned a ton from him. And I think like how it relates to what I do today, I think like we were really operator-led investors at Forest Road, in that like we'd get very involved in portfolio companies and how to extract synergies and how to improve the operation. And so I had like an itch to go out and invest like time and effort in addition to just capital into things. And and also at the same time, just as when you're investing, you just have such a great, and you're in like the flow, and you get sent things and you see all the trends in a certain category. And I was specializing in media and entertainment. And so of media and entertainment, double click, where is the interesting thing was the creator economy. Institutional capital was starting to enter the space, right? I mean, I forgot if I mentioned this already, but like, I remember Soros buying, Hot Ones, the YouTube show, for over $80 million. Was like a whoa moment of like, this is a real, like the asset class was maturing. And there was just a ton of disruption from talent, right? The equivalent of a Timothy Chalamet in this new creator economy was also the Paramount, was the distributor, right?
Right.
And so it was just this so I kind of grew more and more obsessed, looking at the trends, meeting people, and then double clicking on, hey, what are the most interesting areas of sports? And, originally, I originally was like, hey, when I saw the Hot Ones deal, I was like, it would be so interesting to acquire IP on YouTube with financing, and not being an LBO, like traditional debt financing, but brand financing. Like cable networks, if you think about what they do, they go raise capital from pre-selling brands and they buy IP and incubate IP. So it's like zero cost financing for these assets. So that was kind of like some of the initial thinking that I put into it, and like in the seat that I had. And over time, it led me to really interesting like operators and partners that I ended up partnering with for Source Golf, right? Like, Owen Lineback, who's, had been trafficking media and building networks, in traditional and digital, with a couple of like exits in the space. Tiny Horse into Whistle into DAZN. Right? He was responsible for a lot of the value creation there. And Steve Strand, who's my partner, who I met during those years, who's just like an absolute creative genius and visionary, and kind of at really like a senior marketing person and creative person at Nike, on both like signing talent and then had the mandate to go out and really like do the socials and talent socials across Nike. It's like no one better for like knowing how to navigate the world of athlete creator overlap. And then, looking at deals across with like David Blitzer's family office, and kind of meeting Blitzer, and, and ultimately being able to put together, the company with his backing. And his team has been exceptional, like his, the Bolt, which is his family office, working with Tori Palmer, who's like head of direct investing there, just like putting together this whole thing. So those relationships, the thesis, just like the access into the space, kind of came from those years.
I want to, just so I get this straight, this is for my own understanding. I know that you look at this era as like cable 2.0, but you just explained how it really works, the financing side of things in cable 1.0, of get the dollars via pre-selling advertising against, if I'm understanding this correctly, a set number of slots, telling those advertisers, we are this reputable network, don't worry, we're going to go find IP to fill those slots, and we can map that or fill the puzzle piece, fill the pieces of the puzzle so that you get slotted into this inventory. Is that how that really works? Is that the order of operations? Do I have that right?
It's worked for a really long time, but now people are cutting the cord. And so, right, like there's always spillover dollars that, the placers, the placement agents of the media spend are like, oh, I want to go put money into this because this is what I've been doing for decades, but broadcast is declining dramatically. And so it's like there's less and less, there's more and more spillover to go into other products. And so how do you build a net that goes and captures that value, right? Is really the question and the opportunity.
So if you can bundle an asset of really interesting channels, get brands to finance it, then you can be one of the better buyers of digital IP out there.
That's how you LBO something with zero cost, not just zero cost of capital, principal you don't have to pay back, right?
Right.
That's what it is. Right? It's basically, it blows your mind. Now, listen, it's hard to do in practice. I think that was an initial thought. And then I was like, okay, well, in order to do that, you need to be able to go sell the, when you look at the US Open, okay, and you see, I don't know if Rolex still sponsors it, but you see Grey Goose or Rolex or whoever, they're on center court. That's the sponsorship. And then it goes to the first commercial and it's like Rolex. That is the integrated media buy. That's how you unlock the dual media and sponsorship budget. That's how you unlock real premium CPM, right? Is that combination. So you need to be able to do that in the creator economy in order to go do that. That's really hard to do. Why is it hard to do? Because the pre-roll, mid-roll media infrastructure requires licenses, and it's really right. It's there's a moat around being able to do that, and it's a totally different sales funnel to the integrations, right? Which is a completely healthy, vibrant market. So that like dual buy, right? That's where I started getting interested in, okay, so how do you build a network? How do you build a network around those concepts? And that led me to Owen and Steve, right? Who have, were experts in that space. So that was like kind of the thing, like you have, it's a little rambly, but a little trip down memory lane.
Well, another trip down memory lane. I'm asking you to be a historian on this one. We were talking on the lead in about, of course, COVID's acceleration of YouTube golf is insane, but the bricks and foundation were in place, and there were YouTube golfers gaining momentum a few years prior to that. How do you look at the timeline of when things really got rolling in the YouTube golf universe?
It was, it was on my radar a little bit before COVID, and that like you had like some of the legacy guys, right? Like a Rick Shields going and really creating content. But COVID made it a moment, it was a cultural moment in a lot of ways where you had like a lot of things during COVID, a lot of trends, it just like caught steam, and it was like people could golf. They couldn't do many other sports. They couldn't do many other things. So there was less content other than that type of content, and people were watching YouTube all the time. And so so it obviously accelerated and became a moment during YouTube, but it didn't have that like post-COVID dip. It was one of those things that accelerated throughout. I think that's where you look at it and say, there's like revolutions in a sport, right? It's like I think when you look at golf, you look at like the Tiger Woods, like, the real first revolution is it becoming this diverse game and inclusive and like I am Tiger, right? And like bringing people into it in the way Jordan did for basketball. I think we're looking at a revolution in golf in the form of distribution. And I think COVID really like accelerated that and put lighter fluid on a trend that's not going away.
I remember so well watching the match, Peyton, Manning, Tom Brady, Phil Mickelson, Tiger. And I remember watching it, and I don't know if it was on, I assume it was ESPN, some classic network, but it was being operated almost like a YouTube golf thing where they weren't sure if the tech was working. They weren't sure if the live stream was working. And that was just such a perfect like amalgamation of the moment of golf, just, kind of scrappy, lean distribution, and right at the tip of the spear 2 months into COVID of the explosion of growth that we all know followed.
It was a moment, I think. And by the way, like what I'm seeing, which like you talk about that original format, the formats it's remained such a popular format. 4 people on a golf course having a conversation, joking around, right? I think more and more people are going to enter in the space doing that. They have, and in order to differentiate, the formats are going to be improved. And you're going to start seeing at the end of this year in 2027, a lot more innovative type formats like dating shows on the golf course, or, like there's a brand that, wants to buy, like we're talking about buying through the network, and, they are, a finance company, and they're thinking, can we do something Shark Tank oriented where, they're like, you're going and an entrepreneur has like 2 holes to go, pitch an idea, right? So like you're going to see these more innovative formats coming to life. It's a really exciting space. It's
amazing how much remixing happens in media too. We talked about that at the beginning. Like nobody really ever reinvents the wheel, but you take these
2.0.
Yeah, and you take inspiration. I mean, you mentioned TBPN. They're like, yeah, we looked at Pat McAfee and just wanted to do it for tech. Like it's not, it's not that crazy.
It's the same stories. I mean, even in traditional film and television, like the same character arcs. It's like Hamlet and Star Wars, right? Like, I mean, like it's all the same thing. It's like
this is now starting to sound like a Jester essay. We gotta.
Hey, it's all about patterns, baby. Pattern recognition. Let's go.
It's just like, hero's journey, right? I mean, there's, I don't want to get Jester going, right?
That's right. Oh, I'll just start rambling.
Recognition. But I think that's, the remixing or straight up copying is like, totally what's been going on in media and entertainment for forever.
Yeah.
There's no exception.
Yeah.
Ethan, let's end with a breaking news story as of this morning. Fox is acquiring Roku in a $22 billion acquisition. And last week, CAA announced the launch of a $250 million permanent capital holding company called Compound Holdings to do this very thing, invest in these creator-led businesses. I kind of see that as a two-parter, but very much interlinked. You sort of have this legacy media side of it, and then you have this new age creator agency side of it. Could you just riff on sort of those two main headlines for a second?
I mean, there's more and more institutional capital like TPG and CAA going in to go buy creator businesses, right? Like these acquisitions, Roku, Fox, like there are more. I mean, there are more holding companies being spun up and more private equities looking to enter the market. I think it's just, it's at that stage where it's still early. Right. Like, and it's so early. There are not that many assets that are scaled, right? I mean, like you're still looking at a creator economy where like it's, there's not that many $10 million plus EBITDA businesses out there. And I'm saying relative to other industries, right? And like, so I think like now you're starting to see like real growth. You're starting to see some consolidation among channels and different, revenue streams coming to life. And so like you're starting to now see like real interest from, and I think this is just the beginning. I mean, I think over the next 10 years, 5 to 10 years, you're going to see more and more capital pour into the space, more scaled platforms come into life. I think it's a great time for the market. So that's what I'd say. I mean, it's exciting.
Well, Ethan, thank you so much. You gave us already one piece of breaking news with Mr. Moneybags joining the sales team. Do you have, not to give anything away, but what can people expect maybe on a broad level to see from Source in the weeks and months to come?
I think we're gonna be announcing more creators. I think we have now another 5 that we're gonna like kind of announce alongside a couple of kind of brand partnerships and right. So I think there's just exciting momentum on our side from who we're bringing into the fold on both the creator side and the brand side. So I think it's all good. We're now focused on execution. We're building the team. We're executing, and we're just like lasered in, heads down to go get that done. So that's the story.
I love it. Thanks again for joining us.
Amazing.
Thanks for having me.
Ethan.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.